Is there anything you would like to add to the case?
I can read now.
Yep, you can read.
I have always taken pride in the way I do my job. I work hard and do the best I can while on the clock. I am one of the most productive employees in the Smalls area, and all of this, I believe, is why two girls in particular have been nonstop trying to get me moved or fired. Sandie Pierce, this was investigated and proved that she was going out of her way to have me fired. Michelle, I thought everything was over with then. Michelle started having issues with me when my numbers surpassed hers, and then was constant complaining on her part that I was taking too many envelopes. Envelopes. This is all about envelopes. She lost her temper one day and had to be taken out of Smalls area for the day because she couldn't calm down. She was, I believe, taken to another belt to work. Then one day the worst happened. We moved a mat to my position. Everybody, when they get assigned a position, they go over there, they find a mat to put under the position if there isn't already one. I moved the mat to my position. I made sure, I checked her position, made sure I did not touch the one that was in hers. It was another mat. Everybody does this. She totally lost her temper, called me a bitch, started screaming for a supervisor. I had already been informed months before that, after complaining about what's going on down there, to just come to work, clock in, keep my mouth shut, do my job, clock out. I said nothing. Nobody did anything about her losing her temper, calling me a bitch, so when I had the chance, I went up in the office to complain. Next thing I know, we were both temporarily fired until further investigation and escorted out. The most embarrassing moment in my life. I have never been fired from any job in my life because I've always been an exemplary employee. I was brought back with pay because she was the only person doing the screaming. It was only when she had to go to state, the first time ever that anybody alleged violence. When she had to go to state to get her job back, that she brought up any allegations of violence at the state hearing and claimed I slapped her hands. Dan Kelly will attest to the fact that it was not brought up the day of the mat moving. She was hired back without pay.
You mentioned, Dan, that in her first statement she never mentioned anything about slapping her hand in her first statement. Was it a written statement?
Yes.
Do you have a copy of that?
It's in the presentation.
Is that the one that is in the company's exhibits?
Yes.
Did she ever give you a second handwritten statement?
No, it was after she completed that statement and then she reviewed her story that she elaborated and said that she was 15 feet closer to the individual and grabbed the mat.
Michelle, can you tell me why those?
I was very nervous. I get nervous around Dan, but it was bad on my part not to finish everything, but I was nervous, very nervous.
Is that an important part of it, you think?
I believe it is an important part of
Her
it.
slapping your hand?
It was said, but it wasn't written. Yeah, I believe it was very important.
What do you mean it was said?
I'd spoke it, I'd said it, but I didn't write it down.
Who did you say it to?
These are these two guys right here, Andrew and Dan, in my first initial meeting.
After her written statement to the company, after her written statement, when did you find out about the hand slapping, or did she say that during some of your interviews and just didn't write it down?
At the end of the written statement you have, before the line is drawn in where I seal it, she made the statement.
I was told by Security and Human Resources that it would make no sense to put her back in Smalls with me. She was. I was in fear of this. She has made my life hell ever since with accusations of violence and stalking. She even enlisted Sandie Pierce to help her. That was the shoulder bumping so bad that they both claimed they had pain in their arm, never saw a doctor. They did it within 2 or 3 days of each other. One day, one about 3 days later. As anybody can attest, the area in Smalls when you go to break is a very small area. You walk past each other either going one way or the other. It's very easy to brush up against somebody. I have never been violent to anybody in my life. I am going this far to say I had an ADHD boy, 8 years of hell. Worst case scenario, I would have shown violence in that time of my life if I ever had any violence in me. I was a victim of bullying in high school, and I feel like I am back there again. I would never inflict that kind of pain on anybody. Over the last 2 years, I have suffered with Sandie Pierce, constant complaining, accusations, tattling about everything I do. I was warned about Sandie Pierce when I did go to the Smalls area. When I came to Dixon, I worked in trucks the first year. Never had any problems. And she watched me constantly. Supervisors will attest to this, that because the natural reaction is if somebody goes to report something, the supervisor has to watch you. I have suffered with this constant watching of me by supervisors and Sandie Pierce. I thought that all came to an end when they caught her trying to enlist people to complain about me, and she was told she could lose her job. And then it stopped with her. It totally was easy to go to work after that. Then Michelle started in. Michelle started with the envelopes and complained constantly. Linda's taken too many envelopes, and envelopes are lighter, they help your numbers, but the supervisors watched me on several occasions and even went to my bagger to ask them if she's only taken small items. They all attested that it was an equal balance of all. So they have investigated all these claims that have constantly been thrown at me. When all else fails, these girls come up with violence. That's their last resort, to get me fired or moved. I am afraid to talk in their direction for fear it would be interpreted wrong. I am afraid to have any kind of movement with my arms. It has been said that I've given them the finger on the job. No such thing. I don't even use that finger. So management advises me just not to talk. I am not talking, and they keep doing what they do best. Everybody seems to know there's a problem in the Smalls area. Dan Kelly knows it. He calls it strong personalities. Other people who have worked there for years know it. They have done this to others. This is all hearsay. I even talked to another girl, Melissa Copper, who they've done this to, and she told me that they filed complaint after complaint after complaint against her, Sandie Pierce and Chris Peak, trying to get her fired from being a supervisor. It didn't work. She's still there. I don't know what all I have to do is to show up. All I have to do is to show up for work, and it aggravates them. I told Dan Kelly I don't know what else to do except not come into work. I've even done that a couple times because I didn't want to deal with it. I've always been able to come to work, do my job, do an excellent job, and go home and be able to look myself in the mirror. I have avoided Michelle at all costs and tried not to be in the same area until we start work. There is absolutely no proof.
Was Linda on the clock?
Linda, I don't know the specifics of when it happened, if that started.
Okay. She does the setup. Everybody else is sitting on the sidelines. Setup normally starts before the rest of the sort, correct? Would you agree with that premise?
True. Yes, sir.
Okay. Her statement is, and wasn't rebutted by you, that she was on the clock. It was actually your statement you presented. Was not on the clock. So is it appropriate for Linda to even be around what she's doing at that time? She's not even on the clock. Why would she come over there where Michelle was at?
That's where, if I can speak to that, she communicated to me that she went over to check the lineup. She saw where she was going to be positioned for that day. She went over there, set her lunchbox or her bags down, and was waiting for work to start.
So that's the time she decided to start jerking Matt's around when she's off the clock?
That would be apparently correct.
She's supposed to work off the clock?
Negative.
I've asked them to look at cameras numerous times. I've asked them if they have any footage. I don't even know if they have camera footage. They told me they're putting in extra cameras because of all this crap. There's no proof of any violence. The only witnesses Michelle has is Sandie Pierce, of all people. Sandie Pierce, who has the same agenda as she has. For the last 2 years, I've dealt with Sandie Pierce until she found out she could lose her job. They have been trying to cry violence before, and no one believed them. I have never been reprimanded or written up for any violence. So why now? I've had to sign that paper because of their constant going up to the office and complaining. And I have had to sign the paper because they have to review, that's agenda. They have to review the violence paper with me, the harassment paper. I believe because I again complained and decided to file harassment, against the two of them, I am fired. Both times, I finally decided to officially file a complaint. I was fired immediately. These girls have been complaining about me for a year. Violence. And yet, I still kept my job because people believed in me. Now, I make a complaint, I'm fired. UPS wants the trouble to go away. If they have done nothing till now, when everything has escalated, and their solution is to fire the two of us to solve the problem. They're going to lose a good employee. Michelle, they even at one time wanted to take the computers out of Small, these two girls, because they didn't want me looking at it, because my numbers were above everybody else's. Dan Kelly said that would not happen. They've even tried shutting the computer off. All I have to do is turn it back on. So, despite me doing everything the company has asked me to do, keeping my mouth shut, avoiding them, avoiding Michelle, I am fired because I decided enough is enough and filed official harassment papers against Michelle and Sandie. And Sandie was included in my harassment because she went and filed a paper along with Michelle that I have been violent towards her, only after Michelle did. Again, fired for complaining. I wish someone would tell me why, after months of them complaining about me and alleged violence, why I wasn't fired or either of them, only now after I officially complained. I want to give you the definition of bullying. To coerce by threats, intimidation. A person who is habitually overbearing, that would be Sandie and Michelle both. Repeated verbal, social, or psychological behavior that is harmful and involves misuse of power by an individual towards one or more persons and can have long-term effects in the workplace or school or wherever it's at. This don't just happen in schools. This happens in a workplace. And I am not the only one. I have talked to other girls that have been intimidated by these two. Well, as I said before, Dan, a lot of people, Denise rewarded me with a t-shirt once in Smalls. I was rewarded constantly at the airport because of my good work. Denise wanted to reward me with a t-shirt because of my consistent keeping my numbers up there, because some people will be good one day and lousy the next. I'm consistent. She told me to keep it under wraps. She snuck the t-shirt over to me, and she said, please don't say anything. We don't want to upset the girls. It won't stop with me. If I'm gone, they'll pick somebody else. They always have. It's a small group of girls. And I would like to ask a question. Usually when somebody bullies another person, you ask why. Usually it's because they have a low self-esteem, there's an agenda, something. I have excellent numbers. I have more hours than either girl. I work double shifting. My hours run between 35 and 40 hours a week for the last year. My pay increased. Why would I bully them? Why would I care about them? That's the question I have, because their numbers aren't good. Sandie's nor Michelle's. They only choose when they want to be good. I do that all the time. It's my work ethic. It's always been my work ethic to do the best job I can while I'm at work. As far as the throwing of packages, nobody's witnessed this again. Supervisors have watched all the time. Supervisors have been sent down there to watch. Nobody has ever witnessed anything throwing at anybody. I would not do that. I have watched people escorted out the very day they threw any kind of object whatsoever. I would never do that to risk losing my job. I need my job. Bottom line, if I wouldn't have said anything, if I would have kept my mouth shut, as I have always done for the last 2 or 3 years until I've had enough, if I would have kept my mouth shut, if I hadn't officially filed papers, I would still have a job. I rocked the boat. I'm fired. I don't know what else to say. all the accusations, Michelle, and the parking in the parking lot, that was not why I went to somebody that day. I went to somebody that day because I had been to Dan Kelly and others to constantly ask them to please ask her not to talk to me. I have dealt with every day since this Civil Rights Commission thing. Every day I've dealt with her coming and making snide remarks to me under her breath, walking by me. Anything. Every day. Last 2 days, she verbally threatened that she's going to file a lawsuit against me. That's when I decided to go up to the office and file harassment. She was getting to me, that's threatening. The others I can deal with. I've dealt with that. If I'd have just, if I could look back now, I wouldn't have said a damn word. I'd have kept my mouth shut to keep my job. I have no other income. I have no husband, no boyfriend. This is my life. I don't know what else to say. Nobody has any proof that I've ever done anything wrong. And all the supervisors there will give you exemplary remarks about my work ethics and the way I work.
Anything else you want to add?
I hope I covered it all.
You will rest with the right to rebut.